Hello and welcome to Play Talk Repeat. I'm Oliver and I'm joined by Niall, Lewis, and Alex.
Hello.
Hello.
So this is our review of Thank Goodness You're Here. So Thank Goodness You're Here was developed by Cole Supper, published by Panic Inc. And it was first released on the 1st of August 2024. Let's start with some opening statements, shall we? Niall,
Yeah,
here's one.
I'll go first. I'll bloody do it.
Do
I'll
it.
tell you that
Here's
for
with it.
nothing.
Well,
I
bloody
thought
do it.
I thought it was I thought it was a really funny, high quality, light puzzle game with a decent narrative and a very enticing art style. I think this game does a lot of things great. Overall, I think just in general, it's one of those special games which are rare nowadays. I put it similar to in the same boat as Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip, where it's just a fun time the whole time. It's not necessarily the best at everything, but just the whole package is pretty great. Um, I thought the world was always alive, lots of intrinsic narrative stuff going on, a lot of stuff telling stories without necessarily saying too much. And I thought that it was pretty much the perfect runtime. I'll get onto later how the ending, or how I thought of the ending, but yeah, I gave it an 8.5 out of 10.
8.5. Lovely. Alex?
I gave Thank goodness you're here a 7 out of 10. I did enjoy my time with it. The only thing that let me down was some of the parts of the game I didn't know I had to do stuff, so I just sat there thinking it was like a loading screen or whatever. And then like the lawnmower, for example, I was just sat there like watching these two flowers for like a
Same.
solid 5 minutes,
Aces.
and I was just like, right, yeah, I get it. And then I nudged my joystick, and then I just like slowly just like jolted over. Um, like there was like little points like that that just like I was like just like prompt me, just like
Throughout the
like
rest of
nudge
the
me in the right
game,
direction.
during almost any cutscene, I tried to move just in case.
Yeah, no, I just forgot sometimes.
Yeah.
But the humor was spot on in some parts. Like the voice acting was really good as well. And Matt Berry's in it, so it's a win.
Yeah, it's a win. It being anything is a win. Lewis?
Hello, it's me.
Oh, yeah.
Um, uh,
Hello.
so I really liked the game for its comedy. I think the comedy aspect of it was pretty much flawless. There's these really niche underground movies that you might have heard of called Monty Python, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
think, I think, I think this is probably honestly in any media that I've seen is one of the closest things I've seen to replicating that type of humor. I don't think a lot of things have ever really done it well. I think things that have tried to do it have done something reminiscent of it, but genuinely they never really got the point of why those films were so funny and why they were so finely crafted. And I think this game does an incredible job with the humor. Like I said, I genuinely think it's almost flawless. My issue with it is that as a game, it did nothing for me. I would have much rather have watched someone just play it, or watched a playthrough of the game with like no one talking, or watched it on Netflix in 10 episodes. That were like, I would have rather experienced it in any other way other than physically having to play it, because I feel like my input provided nothing to the game, and as a result of that, even though I was loving the scenarios that was put in, and I thought it was very funny. It was just a good little story. I didn't want to have to play it, and it was annoying me that I kept having to play it. And it wasn't long either. It was only about 2 hours. But I would have much rather have actually just experienced it in any other way. So I as a game, I'm not gonna give it too low of a score, but I'm gonna say for me, it was like a 5. But
You, the stray
There
one.
it
Lewis
is.
is,
I
Lewis
but
is a stray one.
I'm not discrediting the material in the game. I think the material in the game is fantastic. I just as a game it does nothing for me. I didn't want it to be a game. I would rather it have just been something I could view, and I would have been way happy. It probably would have got tens. But me having to play it, yeah, just as a game, I can't say that I enjoyed it as a video game.
Mental. What a mad thing to say.
It's not.
I gave Thank Goodness You're Here a 9 out of 10. I very, very, very much enjoyed it. It's just every now and again a game like this comes along, like a little like Untitled Goose Game or something like that, that is just genuinely funny. It looks nice, it plays nice, it doesn't overstay its welcome. It does exactly what it's just great. You know what I mean? It was just it was genuinely. I laughed out loud like quite a few times. Yeah, I just
I do
thoroughly enjoyed
wonder
some
how
of
the
it.
game translates to not even just British people, but like the humor is very grounded in just like Northerners and a lot of Northern humor. So I'm wondering how
What
that
did you
translates.
select at the start of the game? Like the two options? 'Cause I didn't realize what it was at first, but then I figured out it was just the subtitles.
As they're from
Yeah.
town.
Yeah, I did not know what that meant, so I selected the other one.
Yeah, it's the dialect. So I said no. I said what. I think it was
Yeah.
it's either I or what. I picked what at first, but then because the
I
subtitles
put
weren't
what.
matching up with what people were saying, it annoyed me. So I went back into the settings and changed the dialect.
I got you. 'Cause that's the thing
Oh, I
as
didn't know
well.
you could change it.
Yeah, there was nothing too wacky with what people said. Like I understood everything which people were saying.
Oh, I understood everything as well,
Yeah,
but that's
I mean,
exactly.
no,
that's
yeah,
just
but
because
that's
we're
Northern.
Northerners,
Yeah,
though.
it's because we're Northerners. Yeah,
No,
it
I know. I
makes
just
a lot
thought
more
that there was a
sense.
bit of a weird subtitle thing.
But that's why I'm wondering how it translates not only to just British people in general. I'm sure most British people will get it, but I'm just wondering how it translates there and then also as worldwide. I don't get how it.
Yeah,
Guess
because
it's like Americans.
I sat through the credits. 'Cause I didn't know if there was going to be something at the end, and it was translated into a lot of languages, which I
Yeah.
didn't think would work well.
Get it like all.
Yeah,
So I heard from this game originally from like Americans that I follow on Twitter, and they all fucking loved it. They all thought it was the funniest thing. So I think
That's weird though.
just
But are
like
they just taking the piss out of like the British people? Like,
well, it
I
might
mean,
but
be
it's not
why
like the
people.
typical like, oh, get like spot a tea or whatever.
I mean, the
It's
game's taking the
Northerners
piss. The game's
with big
taking the
Ron's
piss.
pies.
yeah, the game's taking the piss out of Northerners in general. To
Well,
be honest
it might be
with
the same people that find the minions funny. Like it's just gibberish to them.
Yeah,
Maybe.
Yeah,
that's true.
yeah.
So, so what parts of the game do we like then?
So-
What sticks in your head as a moment that actually made you proper laugh?
Oh, okay. For me,
Do
it
you want
was
to go
kinda
back
just
to a
like-
point you were going to have before?
Yeah,
Sorry, go
because
on.
specifically about because Lewis particularly questioned the gameplay, and I thought the gameplay was actually quite good.
It's just
in my
exploration. It's just-
In my
it's
yeah,
just-
well,
You're
I thought
just
the
slapping
exploration.
everything.
Well, yeah,
There's not really like that intense of gameplay.
But
That's
that's the
the
thing. What's there is done quite well. Like I thought that the exploration through the levels was actually like deceptively very complicated to pull off.
Yeah.
Because I mean the way progression works always is that there is one exit to a level, and that can
Yeah.
change depending on what's required of you during your like current quest, and you might have like a couple of quests going on at a time, and to make sure all of that works without getting in the way of each other, because you I think you can lightly sequence break some things, especially when you have like multiple quests going at a time, like you can complete one without doing the other. You will have to like actively ignore stuff in order to do it because stuff's put in your path like purposefully, but to make sure that all works I thought was quite good. And like it was very easy to figure out that you were essentially in like a 5-stage loop with like a couple of paths which would change how you get from one area to another. But knowing that, and knowing that when you get given a quest, like say on stage 2 out of 5, and you know that you have to work your way around to get to stage 1, I thought what in most games would have been really annoying, but this game worked really well because of all the other stuff going on with it. I also really enjoyed the fact that they managed to be able to. They were limited because they needed the art style to work in a very specific way for what they could do in terms of puzzles and other gameplay elements, because they couldn't have any UI on screen at any point. They couldn't have any outstanding VFX. They couldn't make the visual design too gamey, so they were very limited in what they could do. But I thought the puzzles which were there were quite good in my
I
personal
think that was a little bit of a hindrance though, because
Yeah.
when I had multiple quests going on at the same time, I kind of forgot a couple of them, and then I would stumble upon something, and then I'd be like, "Oh shit, yeah, I was doing this quest." Unless there was like a to-do list or whatever, I could not find it.
Yeah, but that's what I think is like by design though. The fact that there's
Yeah.
only one exit to every area. As long as you keep moving forward and find that exit, you will come across the thing
Progress,
that you need to
yeah.
do.
It-
Yeah,
Like, there's no
yeah.
way to avoid it unless you like purposefully do. But even in some cases, I think it's
It's
unavoidable.
one of the things I noticed very early on because I was like, I wonder if you can get stuck in this game. But I realized very early on that it physically made it impossible. And in my head, I was thinking to myself, this is designed really well because they've had to make this all align to the point where you can't really do anything wrong. It's impossible to get lost. The only way you could get lost is if you really hated yourself and refused to move forward and believed that the only possible way could not be the obvious path. It has to clearly be a different way, and that's the only really way you could mess it up. Because I didn't get stuck at all. There was never a point where I struggled once. And it's very impressive that they did that. But the gameplay for me was just very reminiscent of just like point and click games essentially, and that's just very dull for me. Again, I don't. It's not necessarily that I don't like the outcome of what you get from it. I just don't like the actual doing it part. I just didn't. I didn't find that part fun at all or engaging.
For me, I was like really eager though to get to each new, like, because each new level while you went through this loop, it always changed.
Yes,
like
always
the state
changed.
of every people, every person, the environment. One thing which I did like is that you sometimes had to actively play a part in these stories panning out. Like, I mean, there was some stuff which you had to do. Like, one of my favorite gags throughout the whole thing was the chimney, which goes back to all of this question.
So fucking
Like, that was
good.
my favorite gag. It was amazing. And even though you had to do it, the fact that you pressed the button to do it, I thought was a value add, which is why I disagree that this game would have necessarily been better as like something that you watch, because literally pressing that button to jump down the chimney added so much to that gag. And I think there's a lot of gags throughout the game where that the input from the player is a value add to it.
That's fair.
Oh, the smacky bum bum at the food
Smacky
vendor.
Bum Bum's great as
Like,
well.
I was laughing because I'm
Smack
watching the video that was playing with the podcast, and yeah, I just came up with the smack closed due to smacky bum.
Yeah, one of my favorite, because now I was talking about like the context of scenes constantly changing and just scenarios changing. One of my favorite gags there was with the bins.
Well, I
You
was
know-
going to bring the
Yeah.
bins up.
Yeah, you know where it started with don't put your rubbish in my bin, which again is a very British thing to do. Like I feel
Yeah.
like everyone's been in that scenario before, but it was they don't put
Get
your
it.
rubbish in my
Bin.
bin, and then it turned into like don't put your bin in my bin, and then they were both in the bin together, and it was just it was just really good. And I enjoyed the ever evolving aspect of that, and that leans into what Nye was saying with like without player input, I suppose stuff like that wouldn't really translate or wouldn't really work. But I don't know. Yeah, like I said, I don't hate the game at all. Like if narratively and just like story wise, I'd be giving this game like a 10. Like I genuinely think it's very very it's just top tier. It's just I have to be fair when talking about it from a gameplay perspective, and yeah, I don't know. Yeah, those are my arguments for the game and part of it. But it's very good though. I do love it. It's a very very good time.
Yeah, I don't think it's a game I could ever play. I'd have to be a long time before I played it again. It's one
Could
of those
not
games.
play it again.
Yeah.
I feel like I got everything out of that game that I possibly could. I feel obviously it would still be funny. But it just wouldn't be as funny. I don't
Yeah.
think like in any way. I think a lot of it comes from that first time seeing it, first time hearing it type of thing. And the game isn't really like. I suppose it isn't a bit in a sense, sorry, but it's not full of secrets. You sort of forced to see everything that's going on.
Yeah.
The only thing that's a bit secret, like that sort of thing, is similar to the South Park games, and how they do sort of like continuous dialogue when there's no reason for you to go to a particular area. If you're
Yeah.
going to like the shop was a good example with the two sisters.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if you just kept going in, there would be a new argument, and I didn't get to the limit of when that would reset or they would stop talking. But I would just keep going in and out just to see new things, and I think the game is littered with that sort of stuff. Did you guys, speaking of like secret stuff, because there was some like hidden puzzles throughout the game, did you guys do all the rap puzzles?
I did a couple of them.
I did a couple of like when you hit them all and they started singing, like you hit all
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
That bit. Yeah. I did most of them. I think.
Yeah.
Not all of them.
I only did one rap puzzle. I don't know if this was like one you had to do or not. It was in the attic of the shop, and you had to roll a cheese ball.
Yeah,
my
that's
shaggers.
actually
My shackers, yeah.
that's actually one of the final ones you could that become available to you. Like there's one in pretty much every area.
I wasn't aware.
What I would have liked is that would have been a great sort of area that could have been different depending on if you did the puzzles or not. I think that could have been interesting, and stuff like that as well. Like puzzles where that aren't key to progression. If they would give you a different gag or like a new sort of scene, that would have been cool as well. Promote exploration.
Yeah, I think that's what the game's all about. It's just like because you start the game out, your employer sends you to Barnsworth to go see the mayor, and then But apparently, so how long did everyone wait there before they got up?
I didn't.
I got up immediately.
Yeah, I got up immediately. Yeah.
So apparently you can't. Apparently you can wait, and
Okay.
eventually,
really?
yeah. So wait for the full duration, but the mayor then finishes his business early and just leaves.
Oh.
Oh,
But it ends the game apparently. It just
Oh.
completely ends the game. You can just wait there and eventually. It's kind of like a Far Cry. You can do it in Far Cry 4 as well, I believe it is.
Yeah, you can do it.
Yeah,
Far Cry
yeah,
4,
where the main character goes, because I'll be back in a minute, and then you wait for like ages and ages and ages. Eventually, they just come back.
Yeah.
I do love stuff like that in games. Like it's just like a little secret ending.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good. But yeah, the whole point is just walk. You're just waiting for the mayor, so you're just walking around.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I enjoyed it. It's a short game, so it's probably going to be a short review. Does anyone have anything else they want to say about the game?
I would like to talk about the ending to the game.
Hit me with it.
Yeah, so I'm not sure whether it's just because I didn't want the game to be over, 'cause I was enjoying it so much, but and we'll get onto this in a second when we talk about the previous game in a second
yeah,
now.
yeah.
But there was hints of darkness, I think, sprinkled throughout the game. Like there's something not quite right going on, but it was very few and far between. Like because everyone was consistently the same way, so even if people were a bit weird, it didn't really stand out. And then right at the end, it just hit you over the head with it. Like everyone here is deranged, and you're going to be hit forever fixing people's problems. And then the game just ends. And like, what happened to the bootlegger? Like we didn't catch him because he just got away. Like I would like these are the like narrative elements that I was actually invested in, and I wanted to see resolved. Like I wanted to know why people were like the way they are. I wanted to see what happened to the bootlegger, that sort of thing. And like genuinely, when that whole insane stuff started happening, I was hoping there was going to be like sort of one final act.
Yeah.
But you kind of just saw the mayor and it ended.
The insane stuff for me was very don't hug me, I'm scared.
Yeah.
It was very reminiscent of that. Like when it started getting like really dark all of a sudden and just sort of really just off-putting and just it sort of made you feel weird, and then it just went back to being completely normal, and you were just sort of like, okay.
Yeah, but it was all right at the end as well, wasn't it? Like I would
Yeah,
have
it was
preferred
very-
it
yeah,
to
it was-
be built up
Yeah.
or to get a bit more time. I didn't feel like there was any sort of closure in the experience.
No.
Yeah.
I feel like that's part of it though. Part of like
No,
the
yeah, I agree. I
mental
just didn't
dread that it gives you, I
particularly like
suppose.
it.
I didn't like the lady petting the sausage. That made me feel.
Oh,
Every time
I will say though, something though as well. Niall mentioned the end of the game, and I thought it was going to bring up the final part of the game with the song
Yeah.
that goes up. Like that part, that honestly might be one of my favorite parts of the game. I really enjoyed. That was a really good climax for me, especially because the first time around I didn't realize I was meant to be doing anything. So when
Oh
it
yeah,
was telling me to
same.
pick
It was
up
very
and
WarioWare.
do that. Yeah, when it
Yeah.
when it told you to do that, I didn't realize. But obviously, if you don't do any of it, it just resets it and then tells you
Yeah.
to do it again. But the dialogue changes every time.
Yeah, what
saying,
was
like,
annoying
you should do it.
though is that if you did it in time with the music, which is what I was trying to do with certain mini games, you couldn't complete it in time. Specifically, like the cutting of the loaf, like you couldn't do it. There wasn't enough beats in the song before it progressed for you to be able to cut it. So I had to just mash it, which I didn't like. 'Cause I liked doing it in time.
One really cool part about that, which I don't know if everyone noticed, it very subtly explained the motion you had to do before it actually came up, and it was usually done either by the character like nodding their head up and down or their eyes moving and like rotating clockwise, but it never explicitly told you what you're about to do or what certain button you had to press, but it made it clear from them before you had to play the minigame. And I just thought that was
You're
really
like,
cool.
oh, move side to side.
Yeah, I thought that was just
That
very
as
cool
well, yeah.
detail to do it all through facial expressions and stuff.
Yeah, Bliss is walking away now.
Yeah, sorry, I had to grab
You
something.
did. We can tell.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed the end. You didn't have to finish cutting the loaf. It's
Well, it felt like you had to. Well, because that's when playing it the first time round, that was the only logical reason as why I think it was looping. This guy didn't finish it all. Like if I finished them all first time and then it loops, then I wouldn't have that like notion.
Yeah.
So I thought I had to just do everything so then it would end. But I think you have to go through all of it anyway.
Yeah,
So,
no,
yeah.
that was the only bit that Lauren saw as well, that last bit, because I was playing on my phone, but it was being dodgy, so I thought, right, I'm going to put it on the TV and just finish this game, because it was like 10
Yeah.
there was only like 10 minutes left, and yeah, that was the only bit she saw, so quite
Good impression.
quite alarming.
Yeah.
So now you want to talk about the Good Time Garden, I believe.
Yeah, the Good Time Garden. So, speaking of the dark elements, I think that the two main people who made Thank Goodness You're Here, it was a bigger team. Thank Goodness You're Here because it's a bigger game. But the two main people who did that also made a previous game, which was for free on Steam. It only takes about How Long to Beat says 20 minutes, but it only took me about 13 minutes to play. It is a very it's like a much darker version of Thank Goodness You're Here.
This
So
guy's fucking Todger's hanging out.
he's got like a little cauliflower thing going on.
Yeah. It very much like
I
Goku.
thought you were
Dragon
talking
Ball.
about Niall then.
No. We've got a gameplay
Yeah,
video.
if you
of the
guys
game.
want to see it as well, the link's in the Discord.
Yeah.
Just it.
Terrifying.
But yeah, it's basically the end of Thank Goodness You're Here, but like the entire game, like it's much darker, much creepier. But the gameplay is, you can see that this is like clearly a prototype gameplay wise. For what's going on, like you have the exact same slot mechanic, like it's exactly the same. Your movement is very similar. The only thing is it adds 2 additional mechanics which aren't in Thank Goodness You're Here. You can water the ground and you can grab stuff and move stuff, but the sort of progression through the game is very similar. Like you have to, one thing gives you a task, which is to feed it, and so you have to go to these different areas, accomplish a puzzle, like in the very similar vein to the Thank Goodness You're Here, in that it's not like a puzzle which is explicitly said to you that it's a puzzle. You have to complete it and then bring the thing back and feed it, and then the game sort of ends. It's very
there's
weird.
a lot of penises in this, man. There is a lot. There's a lot going on there.
A lot of things going on here.
Yeah, so it's a very weird game. It's one of those ones on Steam. Well, it's free, but it's got like the controllers on the control scheme on the Steam page. Like it was just sort of put up there as a prototype. But I think it's kind of like, it was a very good experience to have after finishing Thank Goodness You're Here, because like you can see a lot of the same elements and you can see the progression from one game to another and that sort of thing.
Have you finished this game?
Yeah.
Yeah, he said it was only 13 minutes long.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to give it a go after this, because this is
No, yeah, literally, it is wild.
bizarre to watch. I'm actually gonna turn it off so I can't.
Yeah.
So I can't see any more of it. But
Yeah. So there you go. I don't know if everyone will know that they made this game as well. They haven't made any others on Steam anyway, from what I can tell.
Yeah.
But yeah, made by the same 2 people. So yeah, there you go.
Interesting.
Does anyone have anything else to say on Thank Goodness You're Here?
Yeah, one of me jokes I actually laughed out loud at was when you're in the shed, and he goes, "Oh, I just bought me watering can," and he goes, "It's not a watering can."
Oh yeah, that's a
watering can.
I can't believe no one's brought up Rog. Rog was that, like, speaking of like it getting dark all of a sudden, that like 1 minute segment where Roger's childhood was revealed to us about how his whole life he had a massive head.
I didn't think it was dark. That's why it was sad.
Well, yeah,
I thought it was funny.
But no, there was multiple, like, there was layers to it though. But one of my favorite things about that was when he was in the playground and the girl was making fun of him, and it started off as like a rhyme. It was like it was like big head, but then she just ended it with, it didn't rhyme at all, and she just said Roger's a massive bellend, and just out of nowhere. And I was like, that like perfectly encapsulates just British humor and just playground school humor. To the point where like it was so realistic, and I guess it's one of those things that you can only really make if you've had first-hand experience with it. And I love the creators for that, because you can tell a lot of love did go into it. Like I said, there was layers to like every single joke. But that Roger's head being big thing, that whole just like 1 minute segment, I just thought was probably the funniest thing in the game for me, because it was just it just came out of nowhere. You didn't have any prior experience with Roger or anything. You interact with him the first time. He's freaking out. He looks at himself in the mirror, and then we just find out that he just had a big head, and his mum left, and everyone hates him, and it's just, yeah, I don't know. It was just a really funny one, like just 1 minute segment.
Well, it was his girlfriend that left him.
No, his mum left because his head was simply too big.
No, it was his girlfriend that was in the cinema with him.
No,
and then the next scene is him like crying in bed because she's like, I can't
that
pretend
was
it's not
his
big
mum,
anymore.
because
No, it's
she was
definitely
She was
definitely his
shouting.
wife.
She was talking to someone else though.
What?
she says, "I can't." She says something like, because he's lying down in bed. It looks like he's in his bedroom,
Yeah.
and then it looks like she's leaving, and then it sounds to me like she's talking to his dad, saying, "I have to leave. It's simply too big." Was that his wife?
Yeah, that was his
Yeah,
wife
like
saying to
it's
him,
his
the
head.
silhouette
Talk about
of
his
in the
head.
door, and she was leaving him, like saying, she can't pretend about his head being.
I'll believe you. I'll believe you.
Well, it's true, but also, did you
Because
know
the
that?
previous scene was them in the cinema saying it's not that big,
Yeah,
Rog.
but he
It's
still
not
looked
that
young.
rip,
He
it's
still
not that
looked
big.
young though.
No. Well, did you know he has 2 kids as well?
Does he?
Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah, it's in one of the NPC conversations. It's with him and the. Oh no, I want to talk about the pie man. So first of all, the big pie man,
Alright,
he's
okay.
consoling him, and that's how you find out that you go into you need to go to the pub afterwards. But during that, he talks about the girl with the braces that has 3 jobs, and so that's his daughter. And yeah, so he's actually got 2 kids as
Oh,
well from the wife that left him, which is even sadder, I think. But yeah, the big pie man. So that's another thing I wanted closure on. I wanted closure on the small pie man story because when going through the pipes, you get an extra story
Oh,
about him
yeah,
where
yeah,
like
yeah.
introducing the son, and it feels like that was the midpoint to the story about the fact that he's a small pie man.
Yeah.
And I would have liked another scene with him where he like realizes that it's okay to be a small pie
But it's
man,
not
or
okay to
maybe,
be a small pie man. It's not
or
okay.
maybe he gets into big pies, like
Yeah, because
that
his daughter or his son who brings home a partner or
daughter
something
that brings
like
a boyfriend.
Their
Yeah, he
boyfriend.
said something like, "I'll never let my daughter date someone." He's like,
He
Yeah,
wants
because
it
he
all
says
because
like
it's
it doesn't have to usually have sides with his pies at home.
Yeah.
yeah, because his pies are massive.
Again, it's just like I said, it's just one of those. The game's layered and comedy, and like I was saying, it was very similar to Monty Python humor. If you've seen any of those films, obviously, and anyone watching who's seen them, it's so. I think people need to give credit to how good the writers are for this game and how smart it is.
It's so
'Cause it,
difficult to be funny in games, isn't it?
yes, no,
Yeah.
genuinely, it's incredibly difficult to be funny, and not only be funny, but for jokes to have so many layers and like consistency between jokes as well, and just to be very grounded. It just must have been incredibly difficult, and you can tell it's a game made from a lot of love and passion. As much as it's mocking like British humor and stuff, it's also built coming from a place of obviously experience and understanding it very well.
Yeah.
And
It's
I just think
even,
it's kind of
it's hard.
incredible for it. I just think it's
Yeah.
very, very incredible for
Well,
it.
what did you rate the game again?
Shut up! No, because I based it on gameplay. I'm sorry to everyone listening. The game is literally fantastic. I just the gameplay just was not interesting to me. I'm
Fantastic,
sorry.
5 out of 10.
It's just the way it is. I'm allowed to. I'm
That
allowed,
sounds like an Oliver
I
review,
mean, that
that,
is
but
true.
backwards.
I'm sorry. It makes sense in my head. The
No,
gameplay
it's fine.
is just not interesting to me, but the game is very good. I don't know. I could give it higher. I just think I'd be lying to myself, and I can't do it.
I just realised I forgot to switch over the Lewis image earlier.
What you
So
were
it's
gonna
still-
say, I've just realised I haven't recorded the entire
No,
thing.
no,
so
no, no. It's all
that's way
recorded.
better, to be honest.
I got to switch over the Lewis. I've switched over now, so we can get that nice Yorkshireman one in. But
You can
Okay.
just edit it.
I'm
Nah,
not.
you have
I'm
to
not gonna
re-render
do
and
that
stuff like
at
that.
all.
We don't
One
do
more
that.
joke as well. It wasn't even that big of a joke. Again, I found it very funny. It was Tony's parked vans. It was literally just a van that was parked. It said Tony's
Yeah.
parked vans never caught moving.
And
There was another
thought it
There was
very
another
funny.
Rog one which made me laugh, where you're in the pub and he goes, "Oh, look at the fucking head on that pint," and then Rog just goes, just like my head. It's just the delivery on that line, it killed me.
That's the journey which I wanted for the small pie man. Like, it felt like he got like I was very. That's the thing. I was very, very immersed in the story of the game, which is why I was sad about the ending. And yeah.
Well, the big pie man's story ended quite well. He created a gigantic pie.
It's gigantic pie.
Gigantic pie. And I don't think we should have any closure on the
Maybe the small pie
because
man
it's
doesn't
bad
deserve
pie
to be
man.
happy.
He doesn't.
Yeah.
He wants a small pie when you can have a big pie.
That was a good point.
Yeah. Right. So we'll close it off there. Thank you very much for watching. We shall see you later.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Alright, Jolly good. Done.